Welcome to PIC Prison, the most structured prison in the world, where we'll guide you through exactly what goes on inside the PIC processor and how we keep things in order and receive and dispatch goods. To keep things in order in the prison, we use firm discipline. So I'll walk you around our entry point to the prison, which is strongly controlled for all formal visitors in and out, is at the gate. Over here in block 0, we have the real basic people. So they're just the plebs who don't know anything. They're just carriers of information for us. And the same in block 1 and block 2. Over in block 15, we keep the special purpose people. These are the ones that are skilled, and they control things like the windows in and out of the prison, which will have special goods passing through, and they just track everything that's going on inside the prison. Within each of these blocks we have set allocations. So as I said, over here we've got the scumbags, and we've got cells in the range of 0 through to FF. So same for bank 1 and 2, that's just where all of our scumbags live. So we tell them, here, look after this information and we'll come and get it from you later. Down here in bank 15 or block 15, this is where all of our special function prisoners are. So they're in cells numbered F80 through to FFF, and they do things like look after the ports, they track the status of things going in and out. So yeah, they're all the special people. So without any more wasting time, let's have a look at what's actually going on at a deeper level. So the most important person in this prison is me. I'm the guard. Basically, I'm the only person who can move freely within the prison and tell people what to do. And I get to look after a very special part of the prison, the gate, which we refer internally to WREG. So when I'm moving around the prison, I get to take the information to and from the prisoners. And over here in block 0, we have some prisoners that they're just our scumbag prisoners. They just keep information that I tell them to. But over here, these are our longer term prisoners. These ones have more freedom. So I tell them to do something, but they get to sometimes leave their cell and move between the ports and their cells again, and they'll basically be their little messengers who run around with the instructions I tell them. Okay, so it's time to understand how this prison works. So first up, the guard's going to come over here and he's going to kick these prisoners into line. He likes to keep things nice and straight, so we'll just get them so that they're actually where they're meant to be. And he'll come back over here to WREG. In this prison, we're not just holding prisoners, but we're actually running a drug lab inside. So we need to process some incoming supplies, and we set them up into groups of 3, which is our drug package, and then we dispatch them through the walls, portholes 0 to 2. So you can see over here, we've got our portholes. It's basically, we've combined 0, 1 and 2 into one big hole so we can fit our packages out of them. When we do that, a courier will collect them when we put a light up in hole 7. So over in this hole here, whenever we have a package ready to collect, we stick a light up there so that an indicator for the courier to come and pick them up. Once he's picked them up, he'll leave a note in hole 4 to indicate that the goods have been collected. So basically he'll drop a little note in a hole in the wall here, and that will let us know that, hey, I've already been, you can turn the light off and I'm ready for the next package to be made. Now we need supplies to make drugs, so the supplies come in through the main gate through here, but they are hidden inside other supplies. So you only know which box when a note is passed through the wall in port C hole 3. So this hole over here is when the stock comes in. So if a delivery has been sent that contains the contraband, a note will be put in that hole and we'll know which box the contraband's in. When we process and dispatch 10 orders, we get a chance to rest. So basically, we don't need to produce anything until the couriers next come and done a pickup. So let's have a look at how all of this code works. In this prison, first of all, just got to define a few different people's roles. So when we come down to here, So in cell 00, we've got Bob in there. So Bob's job is to keep track of the available stock. When the stock comes in, he's basically the guy who counts it and controls how much we've got so we can know if we've run out. Then in cell 1, we've got Fred. So Fred, he's in charge of processing the outgoing order. So he basically collects the stock from Bob and he groups it up into lots of 3, combines the chemicals and produces the drugs. And then over in cell block 2, we have Big Joe. And his job is a fairly simple one. He's not a real smart guy. So he's just got to keep a track of how many orders we've dispatched. So every time Fred creates a new batch of 3, Big Joe will count it. And when we get to 10, Big Joe has to make a special announcement. Down in these cells, we've got our port control. We're only going to be talking with port C. The other prisoners are doing other things this week. So it's just purely port C, and he is controlling the holes in the wall. Then we have our people who set up the holes. So these are basically the diggers, the miners. They're the ones who build the holes, hide them, set them as whether they can be accessed from the outside or the inside, all that sort of thing. So that's our TRISCs, and each of these also have cell numbers. And lastly, we're going to be talking to the status. Now, status is a fairly clever guy in the prison. He just knows what's going on. So he can know when stock's low, when we have 0 or something, or when something's gone into negative values. So he keeps track of all sorts of stuff in the prison. He sort of works a little bit independently of the guard and the other prisoners. He just knows, you know, he's like the head dog in the prison and he knows what's going on. Now our prison guard, he's a pretty busy fella. He does a lot of running around, so he'll be passing information from the gate in WREG and he'll pass it over to the different prisoners. He has the ability to instruct them to count up, count down, to move their data, so they'll give their data to him and transfer it over to here. So he does a lot of running around, but he also has another tool up his sleeve that down here he has his wall of video monitors to keep surveillance on everything. So over these here, they're what we call our spot monitors. That's where he wants to see high detail of what's going on. And over here, just his multi-screen layout. So this is actually prisoner cell block 0. So this block over here. And in cell 0, we can see exactly the information that each of those prisoners is holding. The first block is there, then we have another block down here, and so on and so on. So we're only looking at the first 3 cells at the moment. If I wanted to, I could actually add those cells in over here just by going 0x00 for the first cell, 0x01 for the second cell, 0x02 for the third cell, and I could keep on going like that. So this basically corresponds to 00 is my stock available, which is where Bob's hanging out. 01 is outgoing orders, and that's Fred's cell. And 02 is orders dispatched, and that's Big Joe's cell. We can watch them in here, and I'm also watching them in here. But over in my block 15, I've got my WREG, that's actually my room, but it's part of block 15. And then we've got the TRISC and the status and the port C, and you can see over here their address is their cell number. So port C F82 is this one here. Status FD8 is that one down there. So every single cell has a name for the person in it and a number. So we normally just refer to them by their name, but we can also reference their number if we really wanted to. But it's easier to remember people's names. So if we step into the program, our first thing we do is we call the initialization. So what we're doing is we're moving a literal value into W. So we've literally brought some value externally in here. It's gone into WREG, and our guard's going to come along and he's going to pick it up and take it over here to TRISC. So our next step, we've basically now taken that value and we've moved it into TRISC, and what that says is, all right, TRISC, you're responsible for how these ports are configured. So it's going to come up here and it's going to knock out the wall in between these ones. So this is 2 to 0, and basically they're going to be set up as an output. He's then going to look for the next part of the instruction, and that says this port here, which is 3, that's an input. So that's where our couriers, sorry, not our couriers, our notes about deliveries will come in. And we've also got this one set up as an input, and we're going to be using that one for the courier notification. And 5, 6, and 7. So these are inputs, and 7 is an output. So that's for our light to tell the courier that something is there. So TRISC, he's gone through, he's set all of them up, his job's done. We don't need to talk to him anymore, so he gets taken back to his cell. Next up, guard, he's going to go through and he's going to clear out these cells. He's just going to do a quick raid, so making sure they have no stock hidden in them. So he's gone through, he's cleared all of that out, and then we've jumped back up and we're going to go to the out of stock routine. So in the out of stock routine, we basically check to see if the note has as yet been passed through here from our informant, and if not, we'll just pretty much sit in here until someone does actually pass that note through. So I'm pushing the button which simulates the note, and it will then jump into our stock received. In stock received, get instructions come from outside. They say that, all right, you have just received 9 new packages inside of box X, and we're going to walk that information by the guard over to location 0, cell 0, give it to Bob, and he just keeps a track of that. We'll then be moving to the area where we move stock around. So we've now updated stock with Bob. So we're going to take 1 unit from Bob. So we decrement the stock available. So we're basically taking 1 from Bob and we're going to give it to Fred. Watching in these cells down here, every time I did one of these movements, you may have noticed these values were changing. So if you didn't, you can rewind the last 20 seconds and have a look. But you'll see when I click this decrement from stock available, this number here, which is cell 0, should change. So then when we incremented the outgoing orders, we updated the quantity in there. You can also see the same down here on our spot monitors. And then we're giving Fred basically a question that says, have you received 3? So you see that we've got 3 moved into WReg. That was move literal W. It moved into WReg. And we're now going to say, hey Fred, how many have you got? And depending on what he tells us, we're either going to skip if what he has is equal, which will mean we'll skip the next statement and go to this one, or we'll go back to move stock and we'll get another one. So we'll step through, and in this case it wasn't equal, so we're grabbing some more stock. So watching there, we'll see that 8 should go down to 7, which it does. We're then going to go through, repeat that. Hey, do you have enough yet? No, go back, get another one. So repeat that order. Now this time when we check it, so he does have 3. So we can now say, all right, you've got 3, so we can dispatch this order. So we'll see at the next move, we jump to dispatch order. So in dispatch order, we first of all, we want to know that the outgoing hole ports 0 to 2 are empty. So we check that the courier's actually picked it up with his note. So we'll go in there and we do a bit test F skip if clear, and we're checking port C 4. Now if there's a note in there, we'll know about it. If there's not, we'll keep on looping. So we're basically just going to wait for that. Now because we did have a note, we have jump back up here and MoveFF. This is actually two commands combined into one. So instead of taking one clock cycle like everything else we've done, what MoveFF actually does is it takes the value from outgoing orders, so the value in here, and it moves it into port C, so over here. So port C is currently being shown in binary, but the first 3 bits are the ones that we've got for outputs. So the value 3 has moved into there. So binary 11 is 3. So what we actually did was 2 moves, but with one command. So we had the guard go along and he said, all right, Fred, give me the stock. And the guard carried the stock, he brought it over to port C, and port C basically did his thing with it, which was to stick it in the hole ready to be dispatched. So next up, we'll do a bit test F on port C bit 7. Sorry, bit set F. So we've come in here, again, port C's said, all right, I've got to light up the indicator for the courier, so he's turned the light on in that hole. So Fred no longer has any units. The guard's taken them all from him, so we've cleared out his stock. And we can tell Big Joe in cell 2 that he can increase his count by 1 because we've sent out 1 order. All right, and we want to know, have you actually done 10 yet? So we put in the value for 10, or hexadecimal A, and we compare that to what Big Joe has, and skip if it's matched. So because at the moment he doesn't have 10, Big Joe's only got 1 in there, we will basically go to the move stock. Otherwise we would go to order complete. So we'll go through back to move stock, and we basically step through this doing the same thing. Now we want to know when we're out of stock. So I'm just going to step through here until this value here gets to 0. And something you can actually do to speed things up is you can just type the value in that you want there. So I'm going to make that 1. So I'll step through again. So basically we've set the stock to be 0. We're able to process one more part of the order, or start processing it. So this time when we decrement our stock, we're going to do a branch not negative. Over here, this was 0 a moment ago, and suddenly it's at FF, which means we have gone from 0, we've looped through into negative values, and the flag in the status register, so if we have a look at status, so the N flag, which stands for negative, is currently a 1. So the other flags I'll just quickly run through. Carry, I can't quite recall what DC is, 0, and overflow. Because we have a negative, we will jump over this group order jump. Instead we'll go to the out of stock routine. So here we are in out of stock. We've got to wait for our incoming delivery and know which box it's in. So we're just going to sit here and loop through until such a time as we get our note coming into port 3. So I'm pushing down the button for port 3. We will then go to stock received. So we've just received 9 units, which was like we did at the start. And we can repeat this all over again. Basically, I'm going to step the value for the number of units we've actually dispatched up to 9. So I'll go 0, 9 in there. And I believe because this one is at 3, next step will take us up to 10. So we just switched to 10 in there. So we're going to do a compare from the W register, which has a 10 in it. And it says, all right, skip if it was equal. So I should jump over this one and go to order completed, which I have. And in order complete, we literally just sit there waiting for the courier to pick that one up, And once he's picked it up, we go through and repeat the whole process again, starting everything from zero. If you're still watching me at this point after about 20 minutes, there's clearly something very wrong with you, and I've got some advice. You should either subscribe on Patreon or go and see a psychiatrist, because either way you either need to support me or sort yourself out. So what we're going to cover next is just a really quick overview of the different commands, and we'll just do that on the whiteboard. So we'll get my friendly guard to move out the way as he falls on the floor. Alright, so let's have a look at what happens with a move literal W. So a move literal W is taking a literal value, so I'm just going to put in a value of 0xFF, so that's hexadecimal for 255. So us as the coder have passed that into WReg from somewhere externally. It goes into there through the move command. So literally in one instruction we say, all right, the program has told me this, move it into WReg. The next one we'll look at is move F. A lot of people get this one mixed up and they put FW, but that's not correct. And we're going to say from port C, and it's fairly important that you put a comma, either 0 or W, to tell it to stick it back in the W register, otherwise you can get some unexpected results. So what that does is it comes over here to port C and it takes its content and sticks it back up there in W. It doesn't physically remove the contents of port C or change them in any way, it just makes a copy of them to W. And the last one, which is pretty much the reverse, is MoveFF, and we'll say we're going to move that to Bob. So I'll use just a name that we've given it. And what that will do is, we know currently in here we have FF, so it's FF, and it will literally, it's like the guard will pick it up, run the instruction over here and stick it into Bob. So Bob now has the number FF, but WReg is unchanged as well, so that one is still FF. So all of our move instructions, they literally just take a value into and out of WReg. So we typically transfer something in from the coder's world, move that into a variable or a port or something like that, and then we can also read things out in the reverse back to WReg, where we can then manipulate them with adders and compares and all those sorts of things. Alright, so thanks for watching. Again, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe, and if you can afford to support me for even $1 or $2 a month, that would be great on Patreon. Links down below.
Yeah, right here. Do it. Do it. Do it.